Welcome to Ithaca Inlet. My name's Dan Robinson. I'm here with Madison
Gosley.
Gosley. Okay,
Yeah.
Madison. Yeah, chime in anytime you'd like. We're here ready to watch the Cornell Fall Classic. I think it's in its 10th or 11th year. Started, around 2015, 2014, in that neighborhood. And it's a chance to end the fall rowing season for Central New York crews. Today we have 4 teams: Cornell University heavyweights, Syracuse University, Ithaca College, and Hamilton College. We've had other schools, and now we got a good shot of the starting line because they're just about ready to start the first race. This is a head race, so those of you looking for a side-by-side competition, you're not going to get it. You're going to get a parade, and the head races are great parades, and if the weather were nice, people could be out there picnicking and throwing their blankets out and checking out the crews going by. But the weather isn't so nice, so it's definitely a rower's, a participant's day out there. But the head race we have, we make count 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18 boats in the first race, and so in theory there's 18 crews jumbled up down there below the starting line, and we're going to get down there soon, and the crews will row one at a time, and the first crew is getting started. That's a Syracuse boat with the orange jerseys, and they're first on the list. Checking in, we have starting off alternating Syracuse and Cornell crews. We're a little bit south of the starting line, so the view you see isn't, they haven't quite gone through the starting line yet. You can see that Cornell boat getting going. That's the number 1 Cornell boat, and in their yellow shell, the Empacher. And we'll have a Syracuse boat coming up behind them. Now they're following it, so here's the starting line, and it should be right on the buoy, and right there, they're on the course.
Honestly,
Yeah.
Dan, I actually have a question. Who's in the hot seat today? What do you think? Who is it? Like the first seat, the second seat, the coxswain? Like, really, who are we counting on today to make the times good?
The coxswain.
The coxswain?
Head race is the coxswain's race. Rowing is a power sport with a technical component.
Wow.
And it's 8 powerful guys. Who's going to have more fitness and stamina? They're going to win the race. They all row pretty well. All these 4 schools are well coached. It's going to be hard to designate who rows better. They're all going to row pretty well. But the coxswain on the head races has the number 1 job, and that's steering the boat.
Wow.
Consider the canal a road, and they're steering it down the road, and if they wander left and right, serpentine around, that's going to slow them down. They want to hold a nice straight line, but there are some subtle turns, and they want to take the turns sharp. They don't want to take them wide. So what the coxswain is doing is just huge in a, what the coxswain does in a race is always important, but in a head race especially, the coxswain keeps them lined up. This shot is great because it gives us an idea now. The parade has started.
Okay.
And we got an idea what the gaps are between the boats.
What do the coxswains usually say on these boats? Like, is it power 10? I looked up some phrases this morning, and I was like, what's power 10? And the 34, 35, how they're throwing out these numbers. What do those numbers mean?
Well, you stumbled on the second most important thing that the coxswain's got to do, and that is what comes out of their mouth and what commands they're giving.
Okay.
It's a combination. There'll be strategic commands, and then the other part is motivational commands. So the motivation is like the race is 15 minutes long, and 10 minutes into it, they're running out of gas, or halfway through, they want to know where they are. There's the Ithaca College boat now, the number 1 Ithaca College boat going through the line, and they'll be chasing the Syracuse and Cornell boats. But so the coxswain's saying things motivationally to keep them on point. And when you say power 10, that would be a motivational thing. Just everybody together, and they call out a 10, and the rowers are inspired by the count. But it also is a strategic thing because certain places of the race, maybe they practice it in practice. The coach says, okay, at this point, the 1 mile mark, or at the 3K mark, or here there's a turn, take a power 10 to cut the turn sharp to have speed at this point of the race. So we're looking at the boat on the left was in the race. The boat on the right was heading to the starting line.
Okay.
This looks like Ithaca's number 2 boat. That's a good shot of them going through the starting line.
What kind of mindset would you have today if you were Syracuse, if you were Ithaca, since you are Ithaca alum?
Well, they're just excited to race. We were talking about it. We have an ex-rower. You're going to hear from him later. His name Tucker, who rowed for Cornell. Race day, they're just excited. They've been doing these practices and having the coach yelling at them, going up and down the inlet. Now they see teams with other jerseys. There's some spectators out along the side of the course, as you can see.
Yeah.
They get excited for races, and even though it's a parade, they're rowing as hard as they can. There's a boat chasing them. All these guys can see the boat that started behind them, so that keeps pressure on them. That's Hamilton, by the way. So the mindset is, okay, this is going to be my best row of the week. I've been rowing hard all week. I'm in the boat, and this is going to be our best row of the week. We want the boat to feel together. We want the boat to feel powerful, and I'm going to contribute to that. Each guy is sitting there saying, I'm going to do my part for my 7 teammates.
How do the coaches decide who's in the first varsity 8?
Good question. It starts off, the one objective thing is the ergometer score. It's a rowing machine.
Oh, okay.
So they do testing, and the kids, before a kid tries out for a team, if he's being recruited, has to do them in high school. And so they have a list, and they see who can pull the hardest score. So that's your starting point. But then they row every day, and it's up to the coach to decide who blends in well, who fits in a certain seat. And coaches can change their mind. They might have a close competition. There's a big strong guy versus another guy who's a little fitter and not quite as strong and rows with a little more finesse, and he puts them in the boat one day and then takes them out the next day and looks at it and sees what makes the boat go faster.
Okay.
So there's some competitions they do in practice, but this is the product of several months of rowing, 2 months of rowing in the fall to see who the 8 best guys are.
Wow. So what do you think makes a good rowing team?
People who are enjoying the experience. Rowing is a hard work sport. It's just like cycling or running or swimming. You got to put in a lot of miles. But if you want to be fit and you enjoy the experience of getting fit, then that's a start. And then it's up to the coach to keep a positive attitude and have their efforts directed in the right way. And the last thing is you got to have a chance to win. You got to do some winning or have a chance to win. The teams will break down if they're just not fast enough, if they're slow all the time. The head races, spread it out a little bit. Nobody really knows if they're winning or losing this race. The top Syracuse boat is pretty clearly going to be faster than a second or third Ithaca or Hamilton boat. But they don't get the feedback right away. They want the boat to feel good. They want the rowing to be comfortable and that they can really put a lot of effort into it and not rock the boat. A lot of subtle things going on.
Have you seen a boat ever flip over? I know that's probably a weird question, but been really rocky and you're just wow.
Singles and doubles will flip over, the little boats.
The little boats
Yeah,
too.
the 8s aren't going to flip over, but they capsize. They could, if they're out on a rough day and they fill up with water, they sink, and that's happened. I can't say if the only time I've seen an 8 flip over was actually at the dock. That boat was on the dock, and guys getting in and out of the boat were careless, and the thing rolled them away, and they fell into the water going the opposite way from the dock.
Okay.
So, but no, the 8s. What keeps the 8s from flipping over is the oars. The oars are locked in, and they're like these outriggers. But with the right circumstance, could happen. And I probably has, but I haven't seen it.
Okay.
So that's a good earlier view of the starting line.
Okay.
And that's probably the first Syracuse boat now, well down the course. It's hard for me to figure out now where they are, but based on when we saw them start, they're
they seem pretty far.
Yeah, they're 2/3 of the way down the course. They're in the outer inlet now. We don't really know how long this race is, so if we ever get some information about that, that would be helpful. But on a nice weather day, they were planning a full 5K course, which would have a finish line out on Cayuga Lake. And there's the starting line. And there's the women's boats getting lined up, getting ready to go. They're going to follow right behind, add to the parade.
What's the perfect weather day for rowing? Because today's kind of chilly.
Yeah, well, chilly's good. It cools them off. No wind.
No wind.
No wind. This is not a wind sport.
Okay.
You don't want a breeze blowing you along. You don't want no wind is the perfect day. After that, cool enough. You don't want 100 degrees out. That's too hot. Rowers don't particularly like hot weather. Mm-hmm. They'd like it to be dry, and they like no wind.
No wind. Okay.
They can't row in the rain. Races are canceled when the wind is too difficult.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yep. If there are white caps, I don't know if you're familiar with waves, look at the gaps now. That's a big gap we're seeing.
That is a huge gap.
That boat has gone a little over 2,000 meters and has a big gap on the boat behind it. So you know that boat is winning the time trial in that regard. Whether they're winning against all the boats, but
So I see the woman. Is that Ithaca woman right there?
that's Ithaca College women. Yep.
So the Ithaca College women, what's the difference between the men's times and the women's times? Is there a big difference, or is it very similar?
No, there's a difference. It's the typical spring sprint race, which is a 2,000 meter piece, a mile and a quarter. It's a 2K Olympic distance, 50 seconds. You can say 50 seconds. The men will be about 50 seconds faster over that distance. So if we're talking 50 seconds over a 6-minute split, we're going to say a minute and a half over something that's twice that long, or 4 or 5K, minute and a half to 2 minutes faster.
Oh, okay.
Yep. That's actually, that margin's closing a little bit. So I said 50 seconds, but it might be getting to 45 seconds. The women have really improved over the last 10 years of their speed.
Has Hamilton and Ithaca been always head-to-head, or?
Yeah, good rivalry, great rivalry, both men and women.
Wow.
And they've exchanged wins the last 10 years. And on the women's side, Ithaca's had an edge. Well, I think maybe a little bit on the men's side, but Hamilton's won its share. It's could be a 60-40 split in that regard. So that's another thing it's fun about today's regatta. Two big rivalries going on. The Syracuse-Cornell rivalry is big. They contest the Goes Cup trophy in a race every spring. They're in the same league. There's the Cornell coaching staff. And the women, the Hamilton-Ithaca College rivalry, well, Division III level, Ithaca-Hamilton rivalry is a big rivalry.
Wow.
So there you see a gap. Now, they obviously gapped it. I don't know why they did that, but the women's crews started much later than the men's crews. The men's crews are all out of sight. You can see them.
Yeah.
And at this point of the race, that's about 500 meters after the starting line.
Wow.
This point of the race is outer inlet. That looks like the springtime finish line. But you can see the crews are, they've come along. Now at the back of the pack, there could be the novices. There's going to, Ithaca and Hamilton will have some novice crews. I don't think Cornell and Syracuse have any novice crews. They're number 4 boats, but even their number 4 boats are going to row pretty well together.
Okay. I'm looking at this gap. How do you just go forward? Like, honestly, like, how do you just, the strokes, like, do you have to have big strokes, or is it just like you can never just close that gap?
No, there's horsepower behind the strokes, okay?
Okay.
Well, there are a couple obvious things. Just watching, if the team's rowing at a higher cadence, and right now it looks like the cadences are pretty the same. You know what? The boat in the top boat is rowing at a higher cadence, but they're not getting any further away.
Okay.
That's not a good sign. It looks like that boat that was second could be slightly catching up to the boat that they were following. So you look at the cadence, how many strokes, because that's going to determine. I mean, one boat taking 35 strokes a minute versus another boat taking 25 strokes a minute. 10 more strokes a minute should make them go faster.
Yeah.
The second thing is the length of the stroke. How long is the stroke you're taking? You can take higher strokes if you make them shorter, but that's not going to help you out. You want to have a nice long stroke, and you want to have a competitive cadence. So that's what you're looking at. One of the things I think we always look at just is, without knowing anything else about the crews and watching for the first time on the TV here, is that cadence thing. If you can kind of look at it and say, when they catch there's the catch, and then compare it with another boat and say, okay, that boat's rowing higher or lower, and they're moving well. If you can row lower and move well and keep up, that bodes well, because at the end of the race, when you're more tired out, that lower rate is probably going to help you out. You can bring your rate up and go faster at the end. So cadence is something to watch for and look at. But 8 strong people are going to make a boat go faster than 8 weaker people. They can pull harder with each stroke and get more boat run, more. The boat will go further if you pull hard. So we look at these two boats. They're competing against each other, and we're just going to check the cadence. Catch, catch, catch. They're like catching at the same time. If you look at both boats together,
I can
catching at the
see.
same time. So it looks like their cadence is somewhat even. And I think that's a Hamilton boat chasing an Ithaca boat.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the one at top is Ithaca.
It's Ithaca.
And that's Hamilton. Yeah,
Okay.
Hamilton definitely chasing an Ithaca boat. And Ithaca certainly has not been able to draw away from them. That's been a pretty margin, a pretty steady margin. They have
Yes.
now rowed at this point 1,500 meters, so they're not even quite halfway yet. Again, we're not sure where the finish line is, how long this race is today.
If you're on this boat and you're just getting tired, what makes you go faster, to be honest? Because you can't just stop.
Yeah, you can't stop. No,
You can't stop. There's no way you can
So the
stop.
training has prepared you for it. You know, getting in, this is how long you have to row for. And so and that's what comes in the coxswain. The coxswain might have some motivational things to remind you of. Say, okay, we worked on this in practice. 5 minutes into the race, 10 minutes into the race, we're going to do this. And everybody has to stay focused. So, yeah, if you're tiring out and letting down, you'll lose. And one of the things they spend a lot of time in rowing is steady splits. You want to be rowing as fast in the middle of the race as you were at the beginning or at the end. You don't let down.
Okay.
And to Ithaca's advantage, they can see the Hamilton boat. Like they can see them
Yeah.
and say, okay, we can't let up because if we stop, they'll catch up. Whereas Hamilton can't see Ithaca. Their backs are to them. It's up to
Yeah.
the coxswain to say. The coxswain can see them. The coxswain can keep saying, they're right there. They're 4 lengths ahead of us, 3 lengths of open, or there's 2 or 3 lengths of open water. So the coxswain's reminding the crew, don't let up because Ithaca's right there. They're right in front. So, yeah, this is a pretty good battle. There hasn't been any noticeable gap. I mean, if I guessed, I would say Hamilton's maybe cut the gap a little bit. As they get up to that bend, they're going to go to the left, and I don't think that's the same Hamilton boat. That's a different Hamilton boat. So that's Hamilton there.
Do you think Hamilton's going to be able to catch up right now? Or
My guess is they won't catch them, but they might close the distance a little bit and have a faster time.
Okay.
Like if the time's going to be, I don't know, 15 minutes, give or take, whatever. So if Ithaca's 15:02 and Hamilton's 14:58, that's pretty close, but they've gained 4 seconds, they win the race. So that's what they're gonna that's their motivation right now, to try to catch up to that Ithaca boat, or at least row a faster time. Oh, there's time.
There's
so
the
we got
times.
yeah. Those times don't make sense to me. 11:57 to 16. That's that. So I wouldn't pay attention to those times right now because something's missing. That one boat, Syracuse V8 at 11:57, is 4 minutes faster than everybody else. That would be a misprint. I don't think that's a possibility. We're going to welcome in Tucker. When Tucker gets seated here, he's going to tell me his last name, but he's a guy that rowed from the Cornell boats for a couple of years and has rowed in this Cornell Fall Classic. So, Tucker, when you're ready, you can let us know.
My name's Tucker Poff. I've rowed for Cornell for the past 3 years, and my rowing career has lasted about 12 years now. I rowed back in high school in Wilmington, Delaware.
Nice. Good. So Tucker, you rode in this race last year?
I did.
Okay.
I did. This is always a favorite race for the team. A nice home race to finish off the fall season, get a good benchmark for where training's gotten the team, see where all of the trainings led us.
So we've been watching. It seems that the camera's focused on these two boats, and I think there's no question that Hamilton boat has gained ground on the Ithaca boat.
No question.
Would
The
you-
Hamilton boat is definitely gaining ground.
Right.
They're also taking the inside of these turns, cutting these buoys a lot closer
Yeah.
than the Ithaca boat, which is
Yep.
helping them gain a lot of ground.
Yep. Those little subtle turns, and Ithaca would eventually have to yield on the turn. That's the rules of racing. If Hamilton comes up on the inside and says Ithaca, yield away, but they're not close enough to force Ithaca to yield. Ithaca should have been cutting the turns tight.
Yeah.
They're not quite close enough that Ithaca would have to yield yet. There's
Yeah.
still clear water.
Ithaca's also taking these turns pretty wide, so I think they'll probably end up letting them push through if they continue on that path. But as they get out into the open water, you just never know what's going to happen. One bad gust or one bad stroke, and it could totally change.
Yeah, sure. And if they're doing the full 5K, there's still a good portion to go. I think they're about 3K in with 2K to go out in the lake.
It seems to be they're doing the full 5K.
Yeah.
It looks like weather's good enough on the lake that they're able to go all the way out to about 1,500 out. But yeah, they've got a ways to go, and they're bringing up the rate right now. It seems. Hamilton seems to be
Let's see
bringing
if
up the
we
rate
can
for
tell
sure.
who's got a higher cadence. Ithaca, catch. Oh, Hamilton's rolling
Hamilton's
higher.
going up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hamilton's rolling a little higher, and you can see the buoys marking the turn. Ithaca has already kind of yielded its spot to them, and that's just going to help Hamilton a little bit catch up even sooner.
Yeah, you really don't want to yield that position until absolutely necessary.
That's right. You got it, Tucker. That's right. Good point. And and we were saying that when we started, Madison asked the question about who's the most important person. That, you got to say the coxswain. The rowers are very important. Everyone's got to keep pulling, but the coxswain can really dictate. Of course, these head races. That's why coxswains love them. They have such a big role in these head races. Right now, clearly Hamilton now on the inside of the turn, and that's helping them gain ground.
That's completely true. I mean, I couldn't agree more. This is what coxswains compete for right here. This passing right here is everything. They're ramping up the crew. They're moving faster. They're trying to get everyone to row a little cleaner, a little slightly more conservative to keep energy for the final sprint, but also be able to pass this crew. It's a lot harder than it looks on this TV. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The rowers right now are really they're in the pain cave. They're 80% of all the rowing you do, you're in distress. You got muscles screaming at you, and you're in fatigue. So right now, this is heavy distress right now, and the rowers like this. I mean, Hamilton, of course, is getting a charge because they're doing the passing. Ithaca is probably a little annoyed that they're being passed, but this is giving them fuel to finish this race strongly.
Are they able to pass boatyard drill yet?
And Madison brought it up too. What is the coxswain saying? The coxswains got plenty of vocabulary now to come up with motivational moves, power tens, whatever it takes to get by the boat that they're racing alongside them.
Where are they right now?
And now Hamilton's pushing them off the line, it seems.
Yeah,
They're both pulling away from the buoys.
Yeah, and you could see with that shot how much of a curve is left. So Hamilton
man, are you at
is
the start?
literally in the driver's seat here.
Where are you?
Yeah, this is a tough turn for the coxswains, for the rowers. If the boat's uneven in power, the coxswain has to take that into account. Even if it is even, these skegs don't turn very fast and they're delayed.
Yeah.
So you have to take into account where you are in the water, where is the other boat, how much further you have to go, the wind. This is definitely a coxswain's race right now, and it's really this is the fun part of a head race: seeing passing, seeing boats right up next to each other. Is what Head of the Charles, one of the most well-known fall guys, is known for, this passing.
Yeah, and the blades are getting close together here.
That is getting really close.
The coxswains, the rudders don't respond, so they're looking at it. But this is all 18 competitors in this shot are fully into it. They're fully engaged. And like I said, the Hamilton knows that they're probably going to win this race because they've caught up. But Ithaca's going to fight to the end. They're just not going to let up. This is going to push them both.
As a former coach, what technical advice would you be giving your boats at this point in the race?
Technical advice for late in the race is for maybe the coxswain to call out a couple focuses. When you're alongside too, I would just tell them to keep catching sharp. Get the blades into the water. Don't bring the rate up and let the blades hesitate going into the water.
Spinning the wheels.
Yeah, that's
going up
it.
high and moving slower.
That's right. Get the blades into the water. The catches are, can't be hesitant.
Yeah, I think Hampton's doing a really good job of this right now. You can see the backsplash. When they put their oars in, there's a splash in the backwards direction. That's indicative of them getting their blades in very quickly and not missing any water.
Great call, Tucker, because I was going to say the same thing. So, you can see the Hamilton blades make a little bit more disturbance in the water when they go in. The Ithaca blades, not quite doing that. It's a little quiet going into the water, and it means they're hesitating, not put them in sharply enough. too much splashing could be something too. But no, I agree with you completely. The fact that they're making a little more splash. Look at that. They're getting some. Look at their.
Are they going to collide?
They little, maybe a little blade collide, a little blade collision there. Those two boats are stuck to each other now. Now you got the two B Ithaca and Hamilton women's boats.
That looks like Syracuse coming back from the race.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't see much of them, but we certainly saw a lot of this Ithaca-Hamilton women's competition. And that's going to be Ithaca's next boat, chasing the two boats up front. No, chasing the Hamilton boat.
They're making some ground, for sure. Oh, here we go again.
Two different boats.
They're passing early. They're only
Those
about...
are two Ithaca boats.
What, they're 2.5K in at this point?
Let's see if we can figure out who this is. This is Ithaca's. Well, unless Hamilton didn't have a boat, those are both Ithaca boats. You can see from the blue stripes. And the boat on the left, it looks like they're having a better run of it.
Yeah, they're both lower on cadence, though, lower than the two previous boats we saw. So I think they're going to have a good sprint left in them when they get to the final stretch here.
Yeah, those are two Ithaca boats, and I don't know what I'm assuming that maybe the boat on the right started first, but one of them has caught the other. And I'm going to say the one on the left had caught the one on the right, and the one on the right has yielded the turn. And now the one on the left has yielded the turn. There we go. There we go. Looking.
As far as we know right now, these boats will be doing a second round either in 8s or splitting up into 4s. What would you tell your athletes knowing that they're going to do this race second time? What would you tell them to focus on?
Well, one of the important things I would do is I'd ask the crew when they're done. Because if I haven't seen them that much, like I'm at the boathouse and I'm not really seeing, I might see tidbits unless I'm watching the video. If I'm watching the video, I might pick up on something. But otherwise, I sometimes let the rowers coach themselves between races. I talk about, okay, how did that feel? What do we want to work on? What stroke rate did you row at? Were there changes during the course of the race? I was a big catch guy, so we brought up the catches. I always say, okay, I'd give them another piece of advice about sharpen up the catches again. Make sure you put emphasis on those. Blades going right in the water.
Yeah. From my personal experience, as you get tired, that catch gets harder and harder to do.
So we may not have made the right call on that. So that boat on the outside has increased its lead a little bit. So that's interesting that the boat on the outside of the turn has gotten up to a half length when they were close to even. So that may have been the boat gaining ground.
Yeah.
No doubt about it now. They're definitely putting some space on the boat on the right, putting some space on the boat on the left.
As we were saying earlier, coxswains make or break this race. That boat on the outside will probably do an extra close to 100 meters just because they're so far off the buoys. This race is 5K if you're on the buoys. If you're off the buoys by 10, 20, 30 meters, you're doing 5,000.
5.1K. That's
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
You're making the race longer for yourself.
Yeah.
So it's impressive they're pulling away from an outside line here.
Good. So that boat is paddling back. You can tell at the cadence.
They're getting ready for their round 2 up
Yeah.
soon around 10 o'clock, I believe.
I was speculating earlier with Madison Tucker. Maybe you had some insight about this. For the round 2, the coaches will most likely make a couple changes just from a coaching perspective to see what it makes the boat go faster or things they might want to accomplish. You got any thoughts on that, with what these teams might do for their second race?
Yeah. In my experience, when I did this, the coaching staff takes great pride in seat races for this event. So you will see guys switching in and out of different boats, testing speed. Specifically, Sam Pratt and Ben Olson, our 2 assistant coaches, have put a lot of time work into the Peach system, which is a data collection system that is built into the boat. And so they will switch guys in and out, and they'll compare the data between the 2 races to really get an edge of who pushed the boat more, who was more efficient, who had more power, and who made the boat go faster. So you'll definitely see some switches in these boats depending on who they thought was rowing well, who they thought wasn't, and who they think can make the boat move faster.
That makes sense to me. That's what I would do. If I knew I was going to race everybody twice, I'd do, I put my favorite lineup once in, but then I'd mix it up a little bit to see what kind of changes would come about. And so I'd try to use it for further information. This race, we were talking about this before you started, it's definitely a preseason race. Everything we think about is leading to the spring. We want to compete as best we can with our rivals here today, but it's with an eye to the spring and what's going to create the fastest lineup, or go into the winter training process with guys knowing what they need to do to work harder to move up in their status and their seats.
Of course.
Yep.
This rivalry between Syracuse and Cornell is historic, and it really gets the team going. Just from my experience in the past couple of years and today, the tension is palpable when we all warm up together in the exact same room, a couple feet from each other. So it is high tension and very exciting to race these guys. We're very lucky they come down to race us, and we'll probably go up to race them next year.
Yeah, interestingly, both crews had the last 2 years at the IRA, which is their final championship in the spring. Syracuse, 6th place finish in the national championship IRA, both last year and in 2024. And Cornell, winner of the third level final, 13th place finish. So you got the 6th ranked and 13th ranked teams from the last 2 years. They're both crews trying to move up if they can into that final with the IRA in the springtime.
Yeah. Syracuse had a really good run the past couple of years. They've been climbing the ranks. And from what I've been seeing all the athletes in Cornell's team doing, I'm hoping we can do the same this year and take a good leap in our standing among the other teams in the league.
Ithaca and Hamilton have had a really nice rivalry. They raced last week at the Head of the Fish in the men's side, and Ithaca was victorious. The Ithaca women spend most of the fall sculling. Their top 12 to 16 rowers are rowing sculling, which is 2 oars, of course, and they're rowing in singles and doubles, sometimes in quads, and that's what they spend the whole fall doing. So today is the first time they've really spent this week is getting in an 8 to prepare to race Hamilton. I don't think it's a disadvantage. I think the sculling has really helped them, but sometimes it might take longer to get it together. But Hamilton looked like the faster boat today in what we were seeing in the earlier footage.
That's a real learning curve. I sculled all of high school. I might honestly prefer it to sweeping. I'm not sure. I love quads. I rode a double all of high school. The learning curve switching between the two is huge. In sweeping, you have one much larger oar and you rotate with it. As you can see in a lot of these images, you have the athletes are rotating with the curve of the oar. In sculling, you're going straight back and forth, and it's more technical and symmetrical. So it is definitely a learning curve, and it definitely would make sense if they switched this week. They'd see some difficulties with that, but I mean, they look great today.
They did that experiment that a number of years ago. 8 Olympic scullers got into an 8 for the Head of the Charles, and I think they had her 3 or 4 days to practice. And the result, though, was very strong. The 8 of the top scullers in the world. Now, those are results right there. And that makes sense. Ithaca women, the Hamilton women, 15:31, Ithaca 15:50, Hamilton 2V 15:56, Ithaca 16:38, and then we saw 2 Ithaca boats there, 17:39. They were racing alongside each other. So Hamilton had the edge for sure.
Ithaca 4V beat the Hamilton 3V.
Yeah, there you go. So Ithaca's showing a little more depth there in that regard. They have 3 boats ahead of Hamilton's 3 boat, but Hamilton winning both. The first boat had the fastest boat and had the better 2V boat. Yeah, and those the 2s and 3s, those relate to the kind of the strings of the race. So the second string, third string, fourth string.
Yeah. Now you're seeing the boats are just docking. They'll pull the oars in to make sure they don't get blown off the dock or moved, and they'll refuel and get ready to get back out there for a second race.
Yeah, for the afternoon notes, it looks like we will see some 4s. We didn't see any 4s here this morning, but it looks like there'll be a few 4s. But otherwise, yeah, these 8s will go back out for race number 2. We speculated on what the coaches will do for their lineups, but our guess is that they'll change them up a little bit to see what they can produce. And it'll be interesting to see final times in the morning and the afternoon, and sometimes you can guess by the times what changes the coaches made from one race to the other.
It will be interesting to see. I think we'll see some boats start to speed up and maybe some lag behind, depending on the seat races, depending on which athletes are able to keep up the tech and which are unable to.
The highlight of today's footage was seeing that duel going on between the Hamilton and the Ithaca women. We didn't see as much as the men. The cameras hopefully will be set up a little differently to give us some more of the men's footage, try to get some of that involved. In either way, the good competition between Hamilton and Ithaca women, and that was fun to watch that. We wanted to see those buoy turns. We got some view of that, and hopefully those watching could see the role the coxswain plays and how challenging it is for them. It's not easy to keep that buoy line. Sometimes you think you're close enough to the buoys, and the next thing you know, the boat's coming on between you and the buoys, and you realize, I should have been closer to those buoys. But steering a boat, really challenging, really hard to do. And Tucker, maybe you can add to this, but I think most of the rowers usually think they can challenge better. So we're going to wrap this up. We'll come back shortly for round 2 of the Cornell Fall Classic. If you enjoy watching rowing, tune in. We'll be here. Hi, Julie.
Hi,
Welcome.
thank you.
Tell me your name again.
Julia Thorndike Root.
Okay. So we're looking at the times for the race this morning, and we have 4 crews start with the Syracuse and Cornell men, and that's a rivalry, as Tucker said, a classic rivalry. It's been going on forever, and Syracuse certainly had the edge, and that would have been expected based on most recent results from last spring. Syracuse, their final time of 11:57.2, comfortably ahead. In fact, the Syracuse 2V had the second best time. What I find really curious is, which is interesting, which would be make for the competition, is Cornell 1V and 2V. Those times are pretty close together, 4 seconds apart. You see the Cornell first varsity 8 had a time of 12:22, and the Cornell second varsity 8 had a time of 12:26, only 4 seconds. That means the Cornell has 16 athletes that are very close in power, and they might be able to shuffle lineups and get that first boat to go a little bit faster, or they're gonna push each other. Even going in through the winter, there's gonna be a lot of competition for seats, and Cornell has speed to gain. When you see boats that are close to each other on the same team, there is speed to gain through the course of the season. They can push each other in practice every day. I can tell you from the mindset of a rower, every day they're in a boat in practice, they're trying to stay ahead of the boat that's alongside them. So that's good for Cornell. 2 boats close together like that, and those guys will improve. Whereas if you have 2 boats that are far apart and then practice, then the people in the first boat are getting comfortable, the people in the second boat are getting defeated. That's all mind games, I guess, but that's a good indicator for Cornell varsity that they have 2 boatloads that are that close together in time. But Syracuse is just deeper, so you go back to their third boat, and that boat at 12:23 is faster than Cornell's second boat at 12:26. So right now, Syracuse has the upper hand, and you would guess that they have more those strong, powerful guys, but. And it goes right down to the 4V. So the Syracuse 4th boat beating Cornell's 4th boat. The splits are interesting. Well, you'd see a gap like Syracuse has. Their first boat, 11:57, 25 seconds faster than the next fastest boat. In fact, 16 seconds faster than Syracuse's 2V. So they're 16 seconds faster than the next closest boat. So they're the dominant crew of the day and clearly a winner. And as you look at the splits, every split, they're the fastest boat. They did the first split in under a minute and a half. I don't know exactly the distances of the split. I'll assume it's 500 meters, and they're doing sub 130, and nobody else is really even close to that. The 131.7 is they're 2 seconds faster. That's a half a boat length over 500 meters. Wow. Then it's got the splits indicate first kilometer, second kilometer, third. I'm guessing that it's a 4K race. They rode 4K, and so the first K, Syracuse 251. Then you got the next Syracuse boat 257. So already that's a comfortable 2-length lead almost, or almost 2 lengths. About 3.5 seconds is a boat length. So when you see those pictures of the crews alongside each other, if one boat is exactly bow to stern, tip to tip, that's about 3.5 seconds. So they're getting good just in the first 1,000 meters, clearly ahead of everybody else.
Right.
And they don't slow down. So notice in the second 1,000, they're the only ones faster than 3 minutes. Everybody else, it took them 3 minutes. Generally, you see the crews slowing down a little bit. So Syracuse 251, 256, that's a slowdown. 304, 304. So they get tired. Also, it could be conditions. They get on the lake. There's a little bit more wind slowing them down. So, but you can see Syracuse and what teams will do in their last 1,000. They go a little bit faster because they're getting close to the finish line, so they try to sprint.
Right.
They try to put on a push. So 304.5 to 304 flat. Cornell's top boat 311, and then they shaved 2 seconds off their time with their sprint. Oh. And most teams did that, like 2 seconds faster each sprint. This team didn't. And the teams that don't sprint so well, they slow down a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see like the intensity of the dynamics between the two rivalries, because I just feel like with our last one, when we were looking at Ithaca and Hamilton, like Ithaca started off pretty well, but Hamilton caught up. So I feel like you said, it's really the coxswain's call.
That we'll see. We're going to look at that's a good one to look at. I'm glad you brought that up because we
Yeah.
spent a lot of time in that first race with the camera on the top women's boats, Ithaca and Hamilton.
Right.
Ithaca started before Hamilton,
Mm-hmm.
but Hamilton ends up beating them by 19 seconds, and we were witnessing that. Hamilton was slowly catching up. Their first split, Hamilton was 2 seconds faster, and they may not have really noticed that because at the start they probably started 10 to 12 seconds apart, and after the first 500 meters they gained half a length or 2 seconds, and it may not have been noticeable to the naked eye, but they're starting to their first 1,000 meters they were 4 seconds faster, so they've gained a full length. Very close in the second 1,000. Ithaca had a little charge on that. In fact, if you look through these splits, that's Ithaca's best split. They actually beat Hamilton, beat him by 7/10 of a second in that second 1,000. And that was probably before the turns started.
Yeah.
We pointed that out, and Tucker pointed it out, and you
Right.
just did now.
Yeah.
In the second 1,000, when Ithaca realizes that Hamilton is on their tail, and they're pushing, and they're in a straight line course, Ithaca a little bit faster, 7/10 of a second faster in that 1,000 meters. But that ran them out of gas. And clearly the last 2,000s, Hamilton clearly had the edge. But we saw that. They were on the inside of the turn. Tucker was dead on. They're 8 seconds faster in that third kilometer, 7 seconds faster in the fourth kilometer. The combination inside of the turn probably contributed a lot to that.
Yeah, I mean, for a while it was really looking like they were just going to stay, that Hamilton was just going to stay on Ithaca's tail. And
Yep.
I mean, I didn't think they would catch up. I thought Ithaca had a pretty good chance there, but yeah.
Yep, so hats off to Hamilton. So a well-rode race. And the two things we see is that we saw that their Coxon get the inside lane and do a great job there. And then the way they finished the race as well, just stronger with the Ithaca. But Ithaca's got winter training to get that fixed. In the 2V race, let's see what the difference is here. Yeah, the Hamilton's still with the edge. Hamilton's clearly faster in the 2V, so they're showing more depth right now. Although that's the second to last split, either something happened or either. So when we see a split like that, see an Ithaca 2V at 4:02 and a Hamilton 2V at 4:25, when Hamilton's been faster previously splits, there's a couple theories. One, Hamilton crashed or had a mishap, a crab made them stop.
Right.
They had to stop rowing. This happens, and something caused them to do that. Or it's a mistake in the eye, the camera that's timing them missed something, had a hiccup and didn't catch the time correctly. But they were way faster, and that's probably it. If you look at their last split, 3:51, and nobody else is even breaking 4. Somehow they were timed incorrectly, I think, between this split and that split.
Right.
Together, you will see that those add up probably. And then further down, Ithaca showing a little bit more depth with their 3V and 4V, both faster than
Oh, yeah.
than both of them. Well, no, wait a second now. That's interesting. What we're seeing. All right, I take it back. What I'm seeing is the Ithaca 4V being significantly faster than the Ithaca 3V and faster than the Hamilton 3V. And I speculate there it could be a timing mistake, or in fact the Ithaca 4V it was a novice boat of beginners, and they have improved enough during the course of the fall that now ending the fall season they have caught up to the third string varsity boat, which is a good sign. You have beginners that are gaining ground, and so that might be a boat full of beginners, and they were just allowed to row together since they started the season together in September.
Yeah.
And they've gotten good enough to surpass a couple of the third string boats from Ithaca and Hamilton. So.
Wow. There must be so much training that goes into this. And you mentioned winter training. I'm wondering, what does that kind of look like? I know temperatures are getting colder. I'm seeing what they're rowing in now, and I can't imagine being out on the water right now. It must be so cold.
They've had a beautiful fall. We all know that the fall in Ithaca this year has been like San Diego-ish, you know. It's
Right.
just been gorgeous. But the last week has turned decidedly wintry out, and that's right. And with the clocks turning back, they will stop being on the water, and so and our inlet also can freeze over in December, so they can't row at all. Now, after this weekend, I believe the Ithaca women are shutting down their rowing program. I think I heard at least the Cornell women are going to row for another week or two. Probably depends on the weather, but this is the time, that's where they come in, so they have to do their training on land. They're doing their training indoors. It makes it impossible to row outside, too cold, too icy, too snowy. And they will continue training, even though they won't have accountable practices. The athletes will take it upon themselves with with some guidance to train, and the training is on the rowing machine, road work, running, and training in the weight room, and it's quite intensive.
Right.
It's not as much fun as rowing a boat, so it's something that the rowers realize that it's a period of, okay, this is where I'm going to earn everything I get in the spring. I got to decide to train well. And you can imagine training for different individuals has a lot of different effects. A well-run training program, hopefully everybody in the group improves, but some people just aren't good about training. They don't stick with it. They take days off. It's hard for them to be as consistent as they were. And they may not improve during the course, but others will really make big improvements.
Right.
They've rowed this fall, realized how much they loved it, they want to be good at it, so they train, and they make big jumps before they get on the water next spring. But
Well, I think this rowing center for Cornell is absolutely beautiful. I mean, they have so many facilities and equipment, but I read something about Ithaca's rowing center as well, and that it's been expanded in the past few years.
Well, the Cornell Rowing Center is one of the best in the country, no doubt about it. And they've got an unbelievable history that Ithaca can't even hope to compare. But Ithaca's been rowing for over 50 years, and they did build a new training center, and they opened it in 2012. And yeah, on Division III level, you're not going to find anything nicer. It's just they did a lot of fundraising for it. It was a big collective effort. It was a lot of support from the school, and to have a building downtown that catches people's eye, and so now they have a great training center, and that helps. That does help with the winter training. People, the students still prefer to come down to the boathouse and train. They got the machines and the space to do it, and it's a good place, and that motivates. But it's still up to the individual to decide this is something that they want to do and want to get at. So.
Yeah, I'm sure it definitely takes a lot of discipline, especially, I mean, they're college kids, so they have a lot going on, but yeah, I think just watching this, it's clear how much effort needs to go into the training and the conditioning.
So we're looking at film now, and I guess I'm not sure if we're watching the race or this is a warm-up. The second race was supposed to start, and they probably have gone through the starting line, but that doesn't make any sense, that picture I'm seeing. I'm thinking that's a warming up crew, but why is that crew, Cornell crew, out by themselves heading out to the lake? So folks watching in, your guess is as good as mine. I may have missed something. So we're seeing a crew definitely rowing hard. They're rowing at pressure aggressively. That is a race pace. Oh, there's a line of boats. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So we've missed the start of this race. I apologize for that. But the Cornell boat is out in front. That's a Syracuse boat in second. Then the line has begun. So we're getting a good look at the Cornell and Syracuse men here.
I think the inlet is really interesting, and as I was watching, when Madison and Tucker were commentating, I was kind of wondering what goes into like the organization of these races and like if there's any other boat traffic that comes through these inlets. And
Well, what saves the rowing team is our peak rowing seasons are outside the recreational boat traffic. You see that marina in the background? It's empty. Yeah, at this time of the year, there's nobody left with their boats on the water.
Right.
And so the crews have the place almost to themselves. The springtime, too, we precede the boating season, which generally starts. Now, this is a great picture. The dark profiles, that's Cornell's red shirts, whereas the white shirts that Syracuse is wearing, so they flipped the starting order, it looks like, because there's Cornell in the first, and then Syracuse, then Cornell, then Syracuse, then Cornell, and Syracuse with the white shirts. Those are the top 6 men's boats, and instead of starting Syracuse first, third, and fifth, they went with Cornell starting first, third, and fifth. And then what we're seeing is the tail end, the last, the 2 white boats way in the horizon there. That's indicating the finish line.
wow.
And
Nice.
I'm going to guess this is the Cornell's 4th boat. Although I can't get close enough to be sure. I'm just guessing because the darker shirts, and if they're wearing red, they'll show darker on the screen.
Well, they've definitely made some headway pretty quickly since we've started the
Yeah,
race.
so they're almost done with their race.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the Syracuse crew. That's the Syracuse 4V, white shirts with the orange decks of their boat. Boy, they were quick getting that going, and we
didn't-
were right on time.
Right. Well, it just goes to show how dedicated they are and, I mean, how well they're doing.
So I was answering the question how they set up the inlet. So
Right,
yeah,
yes.
in the springtime when they have races, it's before the boating season starts. So that is a huge advantage. But they will send out some marshals to tell boaters, and also we let the various agencies, the sheriff's office, as well as the Coast Guard, although they don't have much of a presence either, that we're running a race. And it doesn't get in anybody's way because we're outside the boating season, so we don't really have any problems with that. And a lot of the buoys that you see that mark the course, the coaches put those on to give a marker, and they'll pull them up after the race is over. Some of them are there all the time. They're regular navigational buoys. You can see the one white boat sitting there, and that's a coach's boat that's watching to make sure for safety to be another set of eyes on the water.
Right.
So they got view of all the crews at all times. So the lake water is pretty choppy. See the water's bumpier out there than it is on the inlet. It's good enough to race in, so they're going to full 4K out to the lake. But we got a little bit of breeze that's picked up, a little bit more for this second race than the first race. And you can see it even in the overhead shot, those dark patches on the lake, those are patches of breeze and picked up wind. So you can see the waves. And the waves, the Madison was asking about what's the ideal. Maybe that was you asking. The ideal is no wind. The rowers were going to like the morning row better than this one. This is manageable, and they have to learn how to row well in wind in bumpy water. If it gets much worse, then of course they can't row at all. But they're rowing against a headwind right now.
They really
These
are.
times will be slower. You won't have Syracuse breaking 12 minutes on this second piece, because that wind is visible. That's a Cornell boat right there. You can see the red tips, and there's
How does the coxswain kind of like work around these challenges as they arise? Because I know the weather's not always predictable, but I know that they kind of call the shots with a lot of this.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's up to the coaches and people running the race that is it safe to row. And so there's every once in a while we don't row because it's not safe to row. But once you're out there, then you give the coxswains it's practice. You guide the coxswains, tell them, no, there's things to do if it's really windy. You always try to get yourself pointed into the wind or with the wind. Going with any kind of a crosswind, with the wind coming from your right or left, is really awful to row in. And the coxswain can have impact a little bit about way they had to steer the boat. But you count on the inlet for protection. So the wind's going to win. There's not much you can say for a coxswain other than just be prepared for it. The rowers be prepared for splashing and water splashing into the boat and stuff like that.
Must be difficult in the cold, but yeah, I'm sure they push through. Seem to be doing pretty well right now.
For the rowers, there's definitely some technical things you work on if it's windy, and depending if you're racing into the wind or against the wind or with the wind. So taking care of the oar is the big thing. It's just you're going to take care of the oar a little bit differently. You want the oar when you're in between strokes to get well off the waves, over the waves, carry the hands a little lower, and carry the hands a little higher when you're pulling to make sure the oar stays in the water, doesn't come out of the water too soon.
Yeah.
So taking care of the oar is pretty important in windy conditions. So I'm guessing the other boats have gone through the starting line, but we're going to have to see that what we had in lineup. We had 8. The second race had, again, 4 boats each of Cornell heavyweights and Syracuse boats. And then on the women's side, they were going to run 8s for the women. And then there you see the 4s. But the 4s are a long way from the starting line. They're turning around to head down to the starting line. So we've got a ways to go. And we're going to welcome in Graham. Graham's going to tell us his name, his last name, Graham Wohlers, and he's going to help us follow the second half of this second race. It looks like they got the groups broken up a little bit more, because we saw the men's heavyweights boats go out, Syracuse and Cornell, and in theory they're done, so we didn't see as much of them as we were hoping to. We're going to see Ithaca and Hamilton next, and I think those are 8s. I've got my list shows 4 8s for Ithaca College. I don't think that we'll be able to do that if they got 4s, but we'll see what they have. And then there's a couple of 4s. Oh no, that's the women's 8s coming up next. Excuse me. Ithaca and Hamilton women's 8s are next, and the racing will conclude with Ithaca and Hamilton men. The 4s and 8s.
Now, you were talking about how there was the 8 boats that we saw in this morning, and moving to some of the 4 boats in the afternoon. How is it kind of different rowing with 8 guys than 4?
Well, the focus for the programs are the 8s. The 4s require a little bit more skill. The smaller the boat, the tippier it is. It has to really if a boat tips over, and 4s can tip over. They have, they're very unlikely, but they do. And so it requires a little more skill. The smaller the boat, the more skill it is to row it. The 8s move faster, so there's a different feel to it. It's a rhythm feel. When you're in 8, you can pull the oar through the water faster because it's 8 guys, the boat's going faster. Whereas when you're in a 4, you don't pull it through quite as fast, and you got to get used to that rhythm. You want to be able to, come up with a way to let the rhythm match. It's subtle, but we used to row in 4s often to improve our skills and then get back into the 8s. Each guy represents 25% of a 4, so if he's making a mistake, he's going to rock the 4, and if he's doing things well, he helps it balance. If he makes a mistake in the 8, it could be hidden because he's only 12.5% of the crew. So there's just little percentages. So the reason for rowing 4s, it's to improve skill, to match the competition if the other team is rowing 4s, and finally, it's a spot for get everybody on the water. So if you have 28 guys on your team, well, 24 can fit into 3 8s, and that leaves 4 guys left over, so they can row 2, they can row in a 4. So there's several reasons for rowing the 4s, but ultimately the program's focused on the 8s. We don't know for sure how these boats are lined up, but it could have been with Ithaca and Hamilton. They put there's results already for the first race, and you can see from this morning they're almost a minute slower. Syracuse was 11:57 in their morning race, and now with their afternoon, there's part 2 race, their 10 a.m. race, 12:39. So you have about 50 seconds or 45 seconds of headwind in the second race. Cornell is in second, 13:01. Again, the Syracuse 2V was a couple seconds faster than Cornell. But Cornell did separate a little bit more. The 1311 with their 2V, the Syracuse 3V, 1308, Cornell's 3V, 1322, Syracuse 4V, 1343, Cornell 1404. So Syracuse, again, having the edge all the way along and having the edge with their 2V being a little faster than Cornell and their 3V being a little faster than Cornell's 2V. So Syracuse, the deeper, stronger program, but you know, there's still work to be done, and I think Cornell has depth. You can see from all their boats, and again, they're relatively close together from their first boat to their second boat. So there's lots of good things that the coach can do with that to help both boats improve and motivate them going into winter training.
Yeah, and I know you talked about this kind of rivalry that Syracuse and Cornell has, and today we kind of see how these Syracuse boats have come out on top. Has that always been the story for these two teams?
No, certainly not always. That's why it's a rivalry. Cornell has won its share. You go long time back. I mean, these guys have been rowing each other 100 years. It's unbelievable how long this rivalry goes. So Cornell has won its share. Cornell's won national championships, in fact, more IRA titles than anybody else. But their last one was what, 1983 or something like that. So we're going back a bit.
Wow.
Syracuse hasn't won in a long time either. Syracuse is, you know, they've been looking behind Washington, California, Harvard, and Yale in the last 20 years. So they're trying to catch up to them. But so right now Syracuse has the edge, but Cornell has won its share, and in fact, the total they've won more often. The last time Cornell was beating Syracuse, I don't think it's that long ago. I'm not sure. Maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they were beating them. The Goes Cup is contested every spring, and we'd have to look at that history to know that. But yeah, right now Syracuse has the edge, and Syracuse is a top 6 team. And we talk in terms of sixes because you need 6 boats to make the IRA spring final. The national championship in June is a 6-lane course, and getting to that final is a big deal. Obviously, then you go to win. But Syracuse has made the final the last 2 years, which is a rare ground for anybody, getting the top 6. Cornell's been 13th the last 2 years. That's the Ithaca 2V there, heading down to the starting line. For the Cornell alums and parents watching in, I'm sorry we didn't follow as much of the men's rowing. It seems like we didn't get the camera shots we did as we would like to get those crews. But we got a good sense of where they're going. We couldn't really talk about how they were rowing. We didn't. But rowing races go by quickly. You blink, you miss them. So we keep our focus. This is camera now down near the starting line. And yeah, all the crews left racing will be Ithaca and Hamilton crews, women and men. At Syracuse, the day is done for the Syracuse and Cornell 8s.
Now, we can see some bridges in the camera shot here. Do those present like a hazard for the rowers?
Yes. Well, good coxswains, no problem. It's one of the steering things we were talking about. We've talked a lot about the coxswain's emphasis. The reason why I say yes, though, because over the years, we've had some run-ins with those bridge abutments. It's amazing, I told you before, how difficult a job coxing is, steering the boats. And they get, with all the things they need to do, sometimes they're not looking up at the bridge when they need to be looking up at the bridge, and they get themselves in trouble. So we've had races that referees have stopped, but we've had races that boats have just slammed into the bridge. We've had injury from hitting into the bridge. So the bridges present an obstacle, absolutely. And any coxswains are going to do some homework before they go to a race course, particularly if they're the visiting team. They got to say, okay, is there a bridge? Where is it? And there's bridges at about 1,000 meters into the race and about 1,500 meters into the race. And then the second half of the race has those turns, the turn of buoys, and you can hit a buoy if you're not careful. Now I'm looking at these crews, and it looks like they're racing, and the crew on the right is going right by the crew on the left.
Yeah.
And I don't really know who this is and why there'd be that much difference in speed. No, they're slowing down now. They're not rowing competitive, right? So they're still in warm-up mode. That is not timed racing. Yeah, they're still in warm-up mode.
Looks like
Those are two women's crews, for sure. Two women's eights. And they are paddling up to the starting line. Okay. That was the bottom part of the inlet before the starting line.
now in this race today. I know you talked about the coxswains have to do like a lot of research on stuff like bridges. What kind of other hazards do you think coxswains are looking out for today?
Well, buoys, I mentioned that too. And then keeping the boat straight. See, the canal is pretty narrow. You see that boat that's rowing on their the starboard side. The shoreline is not far away. So they need to know, they need to pay attention to that shoreline. If they lose control of their boat for a few strokes and they start veering into the shoreline, they can't get out of it quickly. It's not like a race car. They steer the wheel and it responds immediately. They can't at any time be pointed towards shore because they will add time, and that's an obstacle. So they need to be, of course, they're told, and buoys mark it, but they're told by the course officials that, okay, here's a shallow spot, avoid that, you know. But the canal is pretty, in that regard, the canal is pretty easy because for a long stretch, the first 1,000 meters of the course, it's dead straight as an arrow. So they don't have to worry about curves. And right now they're turning back to get back into position to start. They were just warming up. So what we have, I think, is a delay to the start of the second half of these crews. Those Syracuse and Cornell heavyweight men's crews got on the water, and they got them right down to the line, and they sent them off. And they're not starting the Ithaca and Hamilton crews, but for God knows why not, but there's some kind of delay. Maybe they don't have officials in place, or they're waiting for another boat, or one of the competitors hasn't arrived yet. They want to get everybody in position. So there's definitely a delay to the second half of the second race. So that's a shot looking south. So that's looking back in the opposite direction they're going to race. The new bridge that a lot of people may not be familiar with is the pedestrian bridge. You can see it down there. And I'm mistaken. No, I'm backwards again. We are looking north. We are looking north. We are definitely looking down the course. And the pedestrian bridge is about 350 meters up from the starting line. So here comes the drone to the pedestrian bridge. That has no abutments. You can see it's a clear span.
Yes.
You can see the main bridge, which you were talking about, the hazards. You can see it at the top of the photo. And white paint on the abutments to help out. That's a great view, and that's from the car bridge. Okay, so that camera lens really condenses it, makes it look like a much shorter distance. But the pedestrian bridge is 350 meters onto the course, so they're going to start beyond that bridge, and you can see the inlet ends further below. There's a bike trail on the right-hand side, the west side of the inlet. You can see that going by the pedestrian bridge. You see that paved trail. Makes Ithaca probably the best place for a coach to watch his crews race because you can get on that bike path and follow the entire race, at least a spring race, all the way to the finish line, right alongside the course. So parents, if you're coming in the spring to watch your kids race, bring your bicycles. There's that bicycle path right on the right-hand side there. Somebody's jogging up there.
Now you mentioned spring racing. How do those races differ from the fall racing?
Yeah, they'll line up. And they can only race 3 boats at a time. The inlet's wide enough for only 3 boats alongside. You can see there's that one row of buoys, and in the spring they'll have one boat be on the west side between the buoys and the shore, and they'll have 2 other boats between the buoys and the east shore, and they'll start together. They'll have anchored stake boats so that they start in the same spot, kind of like a gate in a horse race, and they'll say go, and first one across the finish line wins. They don't have to. You can just look at the race and know right away if someone's ahead or behind. They do take times, but they don't worry about the times. It's about beating the boat that's next to you. Here, it's all about beating the time. You gotta row the best course you can and beat the time. in spring racing too, the coxswains don't have a choice to be tight to a turn or wide on a turn or whatever. They stay in lane. Their path, in theory, is completely marked out. They don't have choice in their path. And these head races, parade races that they have throughout the fall, whether it's here or the Charles River or Fish Creek in Saratoga or the Schuylkill River, coxswains have choices. They can cut turns tight. They can go a little wide. They can move into the current. They have some choices. They can choose the faster line. Spring, you got to stay in the middle of your lane. Just stay in your lane. If you're doing anything different from that, you're slowing your boat down. You're wiggling or not holding a straight line. So they got to get lined up, and we see a couple of fours there. They look like Ithaca fours. You can see the blue paint. Well, that might be a Hamilton four, the higher one. It's hard to see. The Ithaca oars they stick out because they got that, the blue paint stripe in the middle of a white blade, and it's pretty distinctive. You can see those from a long way away.
So you talked about like picking fours. Is it more like to just like get guys out on the water? Is there like a strategy to picking who's going to be in the 4 boats versus the 8 boats?
Depends on what in the fall. These races are pre-season, so I think the best rowers are in the 8s. So the Cornell and Ithaca have always emphasized 8s, as is Hamilton and Syracuse. So the 4s might be the lower down the lineup. However, they might have decided, since they already rode the 8s, both teams have put their best guys into 4s, and that could have happened. Hamilton divided their fast 8 into 2 4s, as did Ithaca. So here's a start. Those crews are at race, and it looks like they're going. There's the starting line, and they're off. So we have a start for this second portion of the second race, and that's Ithaca women, and there'll be a Hamilton boat starting pretty close to them, right there. There's Hamilton.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and they started close enough that they'd almost, look at that. Now they're going to cut right over to the lane they want. That's interesting. All right, so they started in the right-hand lane. They're cutting right over. That doesn't help them. To be that close, you run into the wash of the crew that's leading, and also they're now cutting into the advantageous lane. So that was a little close for them. Maybe they're going to do it with this is the 2V, or the second Ithaca boat. And let's see where Hamilton is here. Yeah, Hamilton's starting a little further behind, a lot further behind.
Wow, yeah, pretty big gap there.
Yeah. Usually the officials at the line will provide some commentary. They'll say, hey, back up, slow down a little bit, don't get too close, or pick it up, get a little closer. But we saw the Hamilton boat, the first Hamilton boat, right on the tail of the first Ithaca boat. And now the second Hamilton boat with a big gap. Yeah, and the first Hamilton boat's already given Ithaca. Let's see who's rowing a higher cadence. Oh, Hamilton's rowing a higher cadence. So in a long race, they're rowing a higher cadence and have already caught up to Ithaca almost. If they're faster, that's good. But if it's close, then later on, Ithaca's got something they can come back on. They can bring their cadence up and pull away again. It definitely fatigues you faster to row a higher cadence.
Now you coached this Ithaca team for a bit. Now after this race, what would you look at with these results, and what would you kind of make of results that you'd get today?
Well, first of all, yeah, Hamilton's a rival, and so you'd say you wish you were faster than Hamilton. But you'd come out of it and say, if you're not faster than Hamilton, no, this is what we need to work on. It's hard to know. The coach will have a better idea of where the development is of their rowers. In other words, is it a young team? Is it a veteran team? Is it taking time to go from sculling to sweep rowing? Is that taking more time than they want it to? Are there things that people come back? Some of these teams have top rowers that are spending a semester in Europe or something studying, and they expect reinforcements in the spring. So the things you're going to say to your crew is going to be differently based on where you are development-wise. But ultimately, you say, okay, this is the work we got to do to get faster. We have to get faster, and we got a lot of time till spring to get faster. So right away, Hamilton looks like they got the inside of the turn. This is kind of a significant turn. They'll go through the bridges together, but the boat that's in that middle lane on the right-hand side is going to have a tighter turn, and that will give them an edge. Now, because they started so close to him and caught right up, at this point, Ithaca has to yield. In the rules of racing and in head-style racing, if you're being passed, you need to yield, and Ithaca has to yield to its right to allow the faster team to get the inside of the turn. And Hamilton's definitely a faster boat here. Right, here's the men's fours now coming up. And you know what, I think that's what they did, because I recognize a couple of guys in the Ithaca boat. They're from Ithaca's varsity 8, so they've broken up the varsity 8 into 2 fours. Hamilton probably did the same thing. And they'll send their second 8s back out again, but so I'm guessing these fours are the 8 best guys from Ithaca and the 8 best guys from Hamilton in 2 fours. That make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he did. So they already raced each other in the 8 earlier. It makes sense to break them into 2 fours. And we'll see how it goes.
Now, when the spring season begins, do you see a lot of like changing of who's in what boat, like we do in the fall season?
Yeah, there's some changes. Sometimes they stay the same. I mean, if you got some people in position that it's no-brainer. It's one of the first things you try to is find out a good stroke. That's the person sitting to the coxswain. So you find your good stroke, and if you got the right stroke, then that person will stay put, and then you work back from there. There's a lot of nuance to it, but right. So there could be change, although things could change a lot too. I mean, they discover something, and you make some changes. So I think it goes either way.
And how important is like a team like connection amongst these boats, as opposed to a sport like football where you're like on the field like playing with your team while you're still in the boat rowing with your team? Do you think it's as important, more important than some of these other team sports?
Well, the rowing's unique in that they're trying to do everything exactly the same. Like if you could turn them into robots and just move exactly the same way, that's what you're trying to do. And of course, you're never going to get perfection. So with rowing, perfect isn't perfect. You're not going to get it. You just got to try to do the best you can to do everything together. Just being together. Move your arms together, swing your backs back and forth together, put the blades in together, take them out together. When you apply pressure to push the oar together, the more together you can be, the better. And that's what you're working on all the time. And every crew goes out there, they hope that that's the day they create a little magic. And that magic is when it just blends perfectly, and suddenly you're going faster than you've ever gone before. You just spend all year trying to row that way, and sometimes it happens, and you get surprise results. But 8 powerful guys, and then the technical component to get them rowing as together as possible. They're going to go faster the more together they are. So I'm trying to get a sense of what. Again, we got too close. Those are the women's boats that we saw earlier, and that's Hamilton leading now ahead of Ithaca College, that in the women's 8s. And again, Hamilton's going to have the inside of the turn. Now, Ithaca doesn't have to stay. They're far enough behind now. They can cut over into the lane. When they start making turns, we'll look for that to see if the Ithaca coxswain is tight to the buoy. So spring rowing, Ithaca would have to stay in its lane. But in the fall, they can choose to cut over behind Hamilton, at least through the shorter course, so they row a faster time than the boats behind them. That's not going to help them catch up to a faster boat that's ahead of them.
So do you think we will see this Ithaca team come out in front, or do you think this Hamilton's going to hold its own here?
Well, no, Hamilton's going to win this race. They're putting on ground, and little bit more dynamic. They're in the water a little more sharply. We were talking about that in the first race. They're in the water a little more aggressively, and just a little bit more together. So that's, yeah, we're seeing those two women's boats that we're just watching. They're up in the distance, and then in the near foreground, that's the Ithaca second boat. And remember, when they went through the line, they had a bigger gap on the Hamilton boat. So Hamilton's not going to cut that gap. And they're making the turn up there, so those lead boats making the turn. Ithaca can come to the buoys now. Ithaca can cut, yeah, and they're doing it. See, their coxswain's doing it. She's no longer trying to be right behind, they're staying in lane. They're getting in Hamilton's water because they want the shortest course too. So they have the choice to do that, and they can do it. But of course, Hamilton is rowing away from them, and this is going to be a bigger margin. This is a bigger margin than the morning race, I think. There's Ithaca's second boat. And did they change? I'm guessing they probably changed lineup slightly. Tucker and I talked about it earlier. And from race 1 to race 2, they're still in 8s, but they probably did a little bit of mixing to see if things would change. Ithaca would be more likely to do some mixing to try to get a closer shot at Hamilton.
Now, this morning race and this afternoon race, they're pretty close together. So, as a coach, what would you kind of like tell your team in between these races to like motivate them to go back out there? And
well, I asked that earlier, and I would talk to the crew and say, what did you think? And then these are what your stroke rates were and what your splits were, and where did you think your strong parts of the race? Okay, if you had a strong start but not a good finish, work on the finish of the race. So you talk to the crew and find out what they felt, because they're not going to make changes from who they are from race 1 to race 2. You're just looking for some tweaks to nuance, make them feel better about it. If you change the lineup, then maybe that would motivate them a certain way. And if you change a couple people in the lineup, and that might smooth the boat out. It's not. There's no new plays you can call though. You still got to row the length of the course. One of the things would be stroke rate. I think if you're saying, okay, we got tired early, felt a little rushed, didn't feel all right, so let's row a little longer, and with a slightly lower cadence, or the other way around. Say, oh, we were too low and long. We can, let's row more aggressively. See if we can. One of the things you want to say is you want to empty the tank. You don't want to have energy left over. The second race is supposed to be the training for the spring, and so you're saying, okay, no matter what happens, everything you got, leave it on the water. Just see if you can finish the day with a stronger row, if you can row faster. We saw times from the men's races, and you can see the ripples in the water. There's headwind, so they're not going to row a faster time. They rowed this morning at 9 o'clock. Those times will be faster than these times at 10 o'clock. A little bit of wind will definitely slow the boat down. No doubt about it. Now, Ithaca's getting a long way to the right-hand side. They can follow the buoys a little closer, but right now it's not a turn, it's a straightaway.
now you've mentioned how when we get closer to this lake, the water kind of gets more choppier and
Yeah.
the wind becomes
Yeah.
more of an effect.
Yep.
Do you think their stroke cadence will change?
Yes, and be ready for it. If there's strong headwind, the key is lengthen out your stroke, and the cadence will probably fall a little bit. It's almost impossible not to do that. If you keep the rating up, you're going to have to get shorter, take shorter strokes. That's not going to help you go fast. So I think you want to keep stroke length, and the emphasis is when you get near the catch, you put it right in, because the wind will hold up your catch. The blade goes out there reaching for water before it goes in the water. The wind will press against it. The rowers will feel it. And if they delay putting the catch in, putting the blade into the water, that's the technical part of it. They're still holding on at a margin. It's hard to say. This is the Ithaca second boat, and they're being followed. There's a big gap with the Hamilton second boat, and we can't tell. It's impossible to tell if Hamilton's caught up. I don't know what you think, but we saw up ahead. See those two boats?
Yeah.
You see the silhouettes of them. The Hamilton passed Ithaca. They were right behind them. They passed them, and they're doing that. The Ithaca second boat is kind of rowing by themselves. With these head races, they can always see the boats behind them. The boats coming at them, even if they're a long way back. And I guarantee you, those rowers are kind of, a lot of them are stealing glances, and they want to make sure that boat that's chasing them stays behind them.
Yeah.
And so that's motivational. Okay, so there's another thing of a Hamilton boat getting tight to the turn, and the Ithaca boat not very tight to that turn. Ithaca practices on this inlet every day. And the practice course is to stay to the right. And the coaches are always telling the coxswains, stay to the right. And that's for safety, it's like a highway. Don't drive on the left-hand side. Stay to the right, stay to the right. So they will be, it won't be instinctive for them to hug those buoys on the left, because every day in practice they're told over and over again, stay to the right. So that's a good example. He should be on the buoy to make the turn shorter. Tucker pointed that out. It's a race day. And the Ithaca hometown coxswains will sometimes lose track of that. Okay, there's the waves, and the waves are challenging. And in fact, they may have shortened the course. Yeah, they shortened the course. And that may have been the delay to starting the second half of the race. The wind's picking up.
Oh, yeah.
So they're not going any further than that, and they're not out on the lake as far as they were this morning. That answers that question.
Now, is there like a metric to when you shorten a race or call it, or is it
just like? It's judgment by the coaches, and the coaches have the experience, and you can see those waves, and they're starting to white cap a little bit, and it gets bad real quickly out on the lake where it gets wide. So they made the right choice. They said, okay, that's as far as we can safely row, and we'll see from the times how much shorter they cut off. And instead of a 4K race, it looks like they probably did a 3K race. And the last bet, you can see the wind's pushing them back. They got to get their boats turned around. The water there is still pretty good, but get on, There's the fours now, the men's four. There's a men's four. Okay, so now they're shortening. They've shortened the race. Hopefully, we'll get an idea with it. Yeah, they're before the white lighthouse is the finish line.
Yeah.
You can see they're stopped, and it gets rough fast. So the 9 o'clock race, the lake was okay. Now the 10 o'clock race, it's gotten rough, and that was the forecast. I'm sure the coaches were ready for that too. They knew there was supposed to be 10 to 20 mile an hour winds, and you can see the waves.
Now, are these changes, if like a change to a race happens, while the rowers are out, is this communicated to the rowers, or is it just?
Yeah, I think what we saw with the delay of the second group of races, they were told that we're being delayed because we're shortening the course, and they're told, So I think before they rowed, they knew it was going to be shorter. So that's about 3,500. Let me think about this for a second. That's more than 3,000 meters they rode. Real challenge for the four in wavy water.
Yeah.
That's the Ithaca 4, looking pretty good. Can't tell, where the Hamilton boats are in relation. But and it's for the rowers, it's challenging. Any waves at all, and it's a skill. And for sure, they got to practice in choppy water because there'll be races in choppy water. They have to know how to do it. And you can see it gets rougher and rougher, and that's headwind, so that'll slow the times down. Yeah, they're just running the length of the inlet. They took a kilometer off the race, which was out on the lake.
It looks like these boats are heading back to the.
Yeah, they're turning around. They head back to the docks. So they'll have the Syracuse and Cornell men did 2 4K pieces. You could tell by the times they rode the same distance. Their second race was the first race. But this will show that the Ithaca Hamilton, their second race was shorter than the first race. Still a pretty long race. It's still going to be a 10 to 11 minute race as opposed to 13, 14 minute race. So they took about 3 minutes off the course. in spring races, they got a set starting line and a set finish line. And I told you no choice for the courses, for the coxswains. They won't shorten. They either run the race or else they don't run it. You know, if it gets too rough, they don't run it. But they'll stay with the named course. There's very few places that can actually shorten their course for the spring. But these races, when it's just one at a time going through the line, they can do it. The spring races, they set up a much more complicated starting line. So you can see the waves splashing over the edge of the boat.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to go any further than they have to. There's the Hamilton 8, the last Hamilton 8 coming through. Yeah, and I know this inlet, like after where that red marker is, the inlet makes another turn and it's oriented to the wind a little differently. So this can get pretty choppy. This can get pretty challenging, the last part. And the lake is just unrollable. The lake the waves would fill up the boats and they would sink.
Now, I know we've talked about this Hamilton-Ithaca rivalry and also the Cornell-Syracuse rivalry. What's the relationship between the Cornell and Ithaca teams since they're so close? Their boathouses maybe 500 feet away from each other.
I can answer that. You know, it's not a rivalry, and it probably makes them better neighbors than otherwise. And, you know, from an Ithaca point of view, seeing Cornell there is very motivating. You see lots of guys, lots of boats. They're a huge team, and it feels like, hey, this is something. There's something happening down here. There's something going on, and you know, there's a little bit of, you know, it's what the attitude between the coaches are. But there's a little bit of back and forth, like, you know, how come Cornell's in our way or Ithaca's in our way, or they take up space on the inlet. You know, there's only enough space, so there's a little bit of that going on, but. The coaches maintain relationships. They meet at the beginning of every season to go over the traffic rules. They maintain relationships, and you know, it just makes life more interesting. I will tell you, I always thought our coxswains come out of training on our water with great preparation because they're used to seeing boats everywhere. During practice, there's boats going in both directions. There's Cornell boats. There's even the local club boats. And they get skilled and they are ready to go visit another course. If they had the river to themselves, they wouldn't get the same kind of practice. And when they go to a visiting course, they're intimidated by all the boats around them. Ithaca coxswains and Cornell coxswains don't get intimidated that way because they see boats every day in practice. It's like driving a car in traffic. So they get good at it. Anyways, no real rivalry with Cornell and Ithaca. We race very occasionally, you know, a friendly like this. This is as close. We'll compare the times. But, you know, clearly it was Cornell, Syracuse, and Ithaca, Hamilton.
Yeah.
But it's the Cornell Fall Classic, and other years where they've had a few more boats that overlap. But this year was two visiting teams and clearly rivals.
It looks like we just saw that last boat finish there.
Yeah, that was it. That's it. I think that's going to be a wrap for our competitive racing, and not too soon because the forecast was a lot of wind. We're getting some blue sky, but there's a lot of wind out there, and that'll start making the inlet even rougher. But they timed it right. They got it right. So I guess that's going to wrap us up. Graham, you want to close it up for us?
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us today at the Cornell Fall Classic. I'm Graham Wohlers. This is Dan.
Dan Robinson. Yep, I had fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Take care, folks.